Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad has arrived in Lebanon for a controversial two-day visit that includes a meeting with Shiite ally Hezbollah. Mr. Ahmadinejad is expected to draw massive crowds as he makes two public appearances in Hezbollah's stronghold, less than 5 kilometers from the Israeli border. The trip comes after Palestinian leaders rejected a proposed Israeli trade-off over the divisive settlements issue that's derailed peace talks. Well, those talks started out optimistic about reaching agreement within a year. Princeton professor Daniel Kurtzer, a former U.S. ambassador to Egypt and later Israel, says it's still possible. Professor Kurtzer, who is a visiting academic at the U.S. Studies Centre at Sydney University, spoke to me a little earlier.
Well, I think it's not unrealistic to expect an agreement in principle in a year. I think the issues are well known. They're territory, security, Jerusalem, refugees, and so forth. And one could imagine that within a year, conceptual understandings can be reached that then requires more time, probably another year or two, to really go through the very detailed set of annexes and so forth. So it's not unrealistic to set that kind of a timetable, but you know, the question now is how many times will we be diverted by these important but nonetheless not central issues like settlements. You'd like to see them stop, but you also want to see the negotiations proceed. And that's where the agility of our diplomats is going to be tested to the full.
Well, looking at it from the point of view of the United States, you've got the midterm elections coming up. President Obama can't really afford to antagonize Jewish voters, but at the same time needs to underline to the Palestinians that the United States is an honest broker. Is he in a bit of a bind there?
A bit, yes. The new poll just came out, in fact, that suggested that American Jewish voters are concerned a bit by the president's pressure that he's been applying to Israel. They do support generally the U.S. approach to the peace process, but they want to see a better bilateral relationship between the United States and Israel. And I think Obama is sensitive to that. The Jewish community gave him 78% support in the presidential election 2 years ago. If he anticipates seeking re-election, he'll want to rebuild that base. And right now he has some work to do in that important constituency.
Daniel, you've been watching the situation there for a long, long time. We all know what the obstacles are, the settlement building and the borders and the right to return and so on, not to mention the enmity that's been built up over many generations. Are we kidding ourselves in thinking that there is a real solution possible?
I don't think so. And I take some confidence from public opinion polls in the region which suggest that there is still a deep reservoir of support for the idea of ending this conflict. And also from a study of history, when you've had leadership on the part of Israelis and of Arabs, and then when you've had a determined American president, the chances have risen a great deal that an agreement can be reached. Not a guarantee, no assurance that you can bridge all of these differences, but the elements are there for breakthroughs to occur. But it will require leadership. I would, if I had to choose one of the many issues that are necessary now, I would say determined, creative, dogged leadership on the part of particularly the parties and of the Americans in order to try to move this thing forward.
Well, Daniel Kurtzer, thanks for your time.
Thank you.